All right, welcome back to the MTI podcast. It's Rob and myself, Charlie, here today. Wanted to discuss some backcountry hunting. We're about a month out from the start of the season here in Montana, the bow season. We've exploded in popularity over the last 10 years, and we've designed some programming on this based off of Rob's experiences. So, kind of wanted to chat on it and probably start from the ground up. So, Rob, how would you define that?
Yeah, I guess from a fitness perspective, you'll be moving to do it well and hunt hard. You'll be moving 7 to 12 miles a day, lots of uphill movement, and so the primary fitness demand is what we call mountain endurance, which is legs and lungs for uphill movement. And so from a fitness side, you'll be doing that and carrying at least until you, if and when you kill something, just your day pack. Or if you're backcountry hunting where you're camping in the backcountry, your full camp with the tent and everything, or whatever you're sleeping in. And so that's anywhere, from 15 to 35 pounds, I guess, depending on how much gear you bring. And then you have your bino harness on your front. So there's some loading there too. And if you're in grizzly country like I am, then you'll be carrying a weapon too. I carry a 10 millimeter Glock just for bears, which adds weight. But anyway, it's that mountain endurance element to it from a fitness perspective. From an experiential perspective, backcountry hunting makes hiking so much more interesting, especially if you're bow hunting, simply because you have to get so much closer to the game, and it makes it much more intimate. You really have to learn to be a good woodsman and learn the learning involved just in terms of the natural learning the terrain, learning where you're going to go hunt. All that involved makes it a really enriching but intense deep dive into something if you ever take that up. So those are two elements on the fitness side: uphill movement under load, primarily fitness demand, and then on the experiential side, just a wealth of world full of opportunities to learn.
So, can you talk me through what a day in the field looks like?
Yeah, for me, now the way I like to hunt is to hunt either from my truck or a base camp, where I'll put up a tent, and have most of my stuff, and then in my day pack, I'll be carrying. I always carry my jet oil for coffee and fuel, my kill kit. And I also carry what I call just a spike camp, and it's a 3/4 inch or 3/4 length sleeping pad, an emergency bivy sack, and like a 40 degree sleeping bag. And then for food, I'll carry a Pro Bar or like a big meal bar for breakfast the next day, just in case I get on some game. It's late at night, and I just don't want to hike back all the way into my camp or my truck. And then I can kind of spike out right there really quick with a quick sleep camp. But generally, you're up before dark, and you're moving. And if you need to get up high to glass or whatever, you're moving early in the morning, and it starts cold. Even on warm September days, it's not unusual to freeze at night. So it starts cold, and I get up, have a quick breakfast, coffee, take 2 cups of coffee probably at least, and then you're off, and pretty quickly you're in it, especially if you're elk bow hunting, because the morning's one of the busiest times. And then you do your morning hunt, and hopefully get on something, and it can be really exciting or boring depending on where the game are at. And then the middle of the day, after 10 a.m., I kind of found after 9 a.m. that the morning hunt is over, and then you have a couple choices to make. You can try to get on game or get a bull to come to you who's bedded down, because they'll be headed to their beds then. You can rest, or you can go look for a new drainage if you hadn't seen any game, if you need to move. What I generally do is don't rest. I generally try to hunt all day, and I'll call for elk, and if I can find a bull who's bedded up someplace, I'll just go up and see if I can put a sneak on him or get him to come to me. But what that means fitness wise is that you're pretty much moving all day, and it's not necessarily moving fast. You can move fast sometimes, but you're moving all day, and it's generally off a trail. Most of it is off trail. So if you're in timber going over downfall, it's kind of slow movement, but it's constant movement. And then if if you're on one ridge and you see a elk or a group of animals across the drainage to the other ridge, then you got to suck it up and hike down and then hike back the other side as fast as you can. So it can be just a long day, but it's also, if you do it well, it's really interesting and enriching.
So within that day that you just described, you think generally you're getting between 7 and 10 miles, potentially 12?
Probably between 4 and 12, I guess, because you can have some days where you're not necessarily moving a lot if you're in the game, and then other days, if you got to be traveling around to find some or switch drainage, you'll be moving further. So yeah, it kind of depends on what's happening. The interesting thing about hunting is that you don't get to decide; the animals kind of decide, and so your movement is based on what they are doing. But it can be up to 12 miles, and I've definitely hiked 20 miles in a day backcountry hunting, but wasn't most of that was trying to get to a drainage. So once you get in amongst the animals, hopefully you're not moving around too much, but it depends.
So that's kind of your approach, which might be on some sort of trail or game trail, and then as you start to, let's say you spot some animals, you're going to be starting to cut across heavy timber or whatever the case may be. You're way off trail. Is that correct?
Yeah, most of the time it's off trail. You're moving. Even if there is a game trail up to the animals, you can't follow them up the game trail. you generally have to bushwhack up through the timber for elk who are bedded down for sure. And it's a lot of movement that is definitely without a trail, and a lot of deadfall, a lot of foliage to cut through. So sometimes it can be not like hiking, but more like wrestling with the terrain, getting through it. Anybody's been in a deadfall who's seen that before. Go ahead.
What's your rate of movement? How's that change throughout the day?
You mean how fast you'll be moving?
Yeah.
Yeah, early, depending how far you have to go. Ideally, you're not camping right there with the animals unless you did a spike camp. If I did a spike camp, I would have to move far. But early, you're moving fast to get to the position before daybreak happens, so that you can be ready to hunt in case any animals are out already or whatever. And then the only other times you might move fast is when you're switching drainages, or you have to go from one ridge to the other. You're making a big terrain change, and then finally, if you hunt till dark and nothing happens, you got to get back to your camp. Then you can move pretty fast. But all the other times, if you're moving too fast, I found I'm not hunting as well, and I'm spooking game. I'm not paying enough attention. So over my years of hunting, I've learned to move much more slowly than I started out.
So let's say we've closed the distance. We've spotted some animals to what might be shot range. What does that look like?
That closing the distance is interesting. You'll, for example, if you'll, at least for hunting elk, if you see something out in a clearing, or you bugle and you get an answer, up on a slope. That closing the distance, you want to close that distance generally about as fast as you can to get up there to get in position. especially if it's mid morning and they're going to bed down, or it's evening and it's going to get dark. So that can be a little brisk. But once you get up there, you need to kind of guess where the animals are, and you can risk it by making another bugle and trying to find them. And then ideally, most of the time, you're going to be in a position where you can call in a bull to you, and you can get set up and relatively camouflaged, and then set up your shooting lanes and kind of guess where the bull is going to come. Generally, the bull will come. You have to really monitor the wind, and so generally the bull will come downwind of you, and so you'll get an idea of where he's likely to come from, and ideally you'll be able to get a shot off before he winds you. Elk by far, use their noses to spot predators much more than their eyesight. They don't have really great eyesight, and you can be fairly loud around elk, just making noise walking through the woods. But when it comes to the noses, that's the nose. The nose and the smell is what you have to defeat. And it can be pretty frustrating because you can have a swirl in the wind, and the elk can get whiff of you and go booming off, and you hadn't done anything. Everything you done right, the wind just shifted on you. And there's been several situations where it's kind of been there's this one situation a couple years ago where I just happened to be walking down the ridge at dark. There was nothing up there where I was, and so I was just kind of still hunting or walking slowly down the ridge back to my camp, and it was before dark, and I came up on a bull elk walking up the ridge, and he hadn't seen me, but there happened to be a doe deer who did see me and was staring at me. I had a tree behind me, and so I was relatively camouflaged from the bull. But he kept looking at the doe, and then he would kind of look where the doe was looking, which is right at me. And I was trying to be as still as possible. So if you move, that sets them off. They look for movement, and so and then he just started walking downwind and kind of made this arc right downwind, just out of my shooting range for my bow. And then he got whiff of me and bounded off. So it's pretty amazing how smart these animals are, and that's what makes it, so beautiful and an honor to hunt them.
So we've made our approach. You're setting up your shooting lanes. What's going on internally from a fitness perspective? Are you well rested at that point? Is your heart rate jacked? Is your heart rate jacked because you're anticipating the elk coming into your range?
Yeah, when you start, if elk starts coming in, a bull, you'll generally hear them if you're calling back and forth with them, because they'll be making sound. And then when they get close enough, you can hear them moving through the timber. And it's not a fitness thing, but unless you're a stone cold killer, your heart is just thumping because it's just adrenaline, and it gets so exciting. And finally, you'll see some antlers coming towards you or something, and it's so exciting. And of course, your heart rate is just bumping up because of adrenaline. So, and the goal then is to be able to get the animal in close enough and make a good shot and steady your nerves to be able to put a clean shot on the animal. So, we've trained, of course, through our range fitness stuff, and we've also done a little bit of work with archery kind of range fitness, and we just used heart rate based on shuttle strength. We did a little mini study in archery, and so we did a shoot without any fitness beforehand, and got our scores, and then did a shoot doing shuttles between shots, and we found that our accuracy decreased, I think, 25% just from heart rate of fitness, and the heart rate from adrenaline can be much greater, it seems, than fitness. So yeah, that's part of it.
And can you talk about ranges and what that whole strength looks like, just for anybody who's not familiar?
You mean, what do you mean ranges?
What are you comfortable taking a shot at?
Oh, okay. Yeah, for me, I for a elk, probably 30 yards for me. I don't like to take a shot over 30 yards. Not that I couldn't make the shot, but they're just big animals. I had a spike. I called a spike in to 6 yards and shot him in. For whatever reason, my bow or my arrow didn't go right through him like it should have. I hit him right in the perfect spot. It must have hit something on the other side, and so you want to get. I recovered him, no problem, but you want to get as close as possible just to make sure, ideally, that your arrow passes through the animal and his lungs, and then he'll go down that way. But yeah, I like to get as close as possible, and 30 yards is my limit for elk.
And then what's the force required to actually pull the bow for a shot?
That depends um, the the poundage of the bow that you're shooting. But hopefully, you've been doing a lot of that as you've been practicing, getting ready for hunting season, and doing your archery target practice, getting ready for hunting season. It just helps you get better at archery, but it also helps build the hype because you're getting so excited to go hunting. So it kind of works both ways. But yeah, it depends on the strength of the bow. And I started with a 70-pound bow, and then I dropped down to a 65-pound bow. As I got older, I just found I could pull the 65-pound bow all day and get lots of target practice like that. But one of the guys I hunt with, he shoots an 80-pound bow, which I could barely draw back. So the pulling a bow back is not necessarily it's not like you can do a lot of bench presses and get stronger pulling a bow back. It's really these small muscles in your shoulders, especially in your shoulder that's pulling the string back, and it just takes time to train it. And when the season starts, if I haven't been shooting, and generally I haven't until I'll start shooting my bow in the spring or early summer, and I'll turn it all the way down. So generally, if you have a bow, a 65-pound bow, you can turn it down to 55 pounds, and then I'll start shooting there, and then I'll keep adding a poundage as my shoulder muscles get stronger, and so I kind of build up the strength to be able to shoot 65 really easily and confidently.
How long have you found that it takes for you to get back into shape for that specific pull?
Yeah, I would probably do like 2 sessions at each. If I remember, I would do like 2 sessions at each poundage moving back up. So probably a day between. So like 25 or 50 arrows, at 55 pounds. Do that twice, and then turn a couple cranks up, maybe take it to 57, and then do two more shooting sessions of 25 to 50 arrows, and give a day between, and a little bit of rest, and see how your shoulder's doing, and then keep working it up until you get to the generally bows, if I understand correctly, are their most efficient when they're at their maximum poundage. So you'll be shooting the best with the bow tuned to its maximum poundage. So I just keep going up like that, and that's a good, safe way. And it's not like you lose anything from your marksmanship perspective. You can still work on your marksmanship as you're building your shoulder strength back up. So I don't know what that is. It's probably a good month to get it right.
Yeah.
And
And
safe.
all right, so we've hit our animal, we've successfully harvested it. Can you talk through uh, the harvesting process quickly, just like what that looks like, and then what our pack weight is going to look like as we're walking back to the truck?
Yeah, I've always kind of hunted alone, and so I had to carry my animals out. And so you get the animal down; it's pretty exciting. And then you have to start processing the animal. And so I like to bone out the meat, and so it takes. I mean, a really good, efficient person could do this in an hour probably, but it takes me a good couple hours to, especially from a big bull, to bone out all the meat. So you just you got to skin them, and then get the legs off, and go through the shoulders and the hips, and then cut the meat off the bones. You don't want to ideally carry the bones out, and then you get the meat in your meat bags, and if you have a big animal, it's heavy just picking up the hindquarter or whatever. And then pack weight. I've packed out an entire cow elk, boned out an entire spike elk a couple times. For a bigger bull, I'll have to do him in two loads. I'll get half of him in one load and then half in the other. And so yeah, it's freaking heavy. I mean, easily 70 to 100 pounds in terms of your pack weight. And it's awkward. It's so heavy that you can't like pick it up and flip it on your shoulder. At least I can't. I'll have to either get on the ground and then roll over and kind of lunge up, or lift the pack up on a log and get my shoulders in it that way and get it on my shoulders. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get on your shoulders. And then inevitably you got to go through some downfall and stuff to get back to the trail. And it's dark, and it's a combination of, it's usually dark, especially if evening hunt. It's a combination of, excitement about getting them and just hard work. And, it's not unusual to get back to the camp after midnight. A little bit of worry about bears. I'm always a little bit worried about bears for whatever reason. It can be frustrating route finding because you can't find, where the trail is. And anyway, but yeah, it can be certainly heavy from a fitness perspective, especially if you do any uphill with that much weight. It's really it's a pretty intense fitness effort. I think I try not to hunt further than 3 miles from either my base camp or the truck for that reason. I can certainly hike back in and hunt further, but I have to be concerned about, especially for elk hunting, about getting the animal out and how it is getting to the spot where you want to hunt. If you have to go over a hill and down and then back up, or if you can just go up, all those things come into consideration. And you need to think about that as a hunter about, it's your responsibility, ethical responsibility, that if you harvest an animal, to cleanly and safely and efficiently get the meat out. And so the duration or how much you have to hike to get to the animal is a concern I always think about.
So I don't think I heard a pack weight in there though. What do you expect a heavy pack to weigh approximately?
Oh yeah. I'm probably 100 pounds for a full elk or spike elk or cow, and I don't think there's enough room to get a full bull elk in a pack, and it would be real difficult to carry. But yeah, so up to 100 pounds for your pack weight moving out. 70 to 100 pounds depends on what animal you knock down.
Got it. So we've kind of hit this soup to nuts. Now, from a fitness perspective and designing training plans, what are our core attributes that we're looking to improve as we prepare for backcountry hunting season?
The primary fitness demand for all mountain sports, and especially backcountry hunting, is uphill hiking under load. And that's an aerobic, mode-specific fitness demand. You'll see a lot of influencers, doing a lot of upper body strength training, but really in the mountains, especially backcountry hunting, it's all on your legs and lungs to hike uphill under load efficiently. And if you can do that and get to the place where the animals are and not be totally spent, it just makes everything better. So in our programming for backcountry hunting, uphill movement under load is the primary fitness demand that we're training. And so we do that via having the athletes actually walk uphill with water and dump it to the top and come down, or do step ups with a loaded pack. And those are that's the one way we have found that has direct transfer to outside, especially if you're training for a hunt where you don't have any vertical where you can climb. I mean, I get lots of notes or questions from people in the East, Florida or Texas or someplace where it's flat, wanting to train to hunt in the West, and they ask how to do that and prepare for the vertical, and that's the way you do it. The next one is eccentric leg strength. So when you come down a hill, when you go up the hill, you lengthen your muscles, like doing a anyway, you use concentric strength going up the hill. And then coming down the hill, you use eccentric strength. And so as you step down, you're trying to prevent your body gravity from pushing your body into the ground. And so it's like doing a back squat where you, instead of focusing on coming up from the bottom, it's lowering down the weight really slowly. And eccentric strength is really has a lot more impact than concentric strength. In other words, it's more impactful on your muscles from a damage perspective to lower the barbell on the back squat than it is to come up. And what that means is that if you don't train for that and get to the mountains, even if you've got a lot of uphill or been doing a lot of step ups, it's entirely likely the first time you come down 1,000-foot, ridge or something like that, the next day you can be really sore. It can really make you very, very sore. So we use our tried and proven leg blaster complex to train eccentric strength to get athletes ready for the downhills. And then load carriage, not only for the pack out, which is important, but time wise, not the big part of the backcountry moving. It's just the daily stuff running with a 15 to 20 pound day pack, plus your bino harness, plus you're carrying your weapon, plus water. So maybe 30 or 35 pounds that you're moving with all day is on both sides of your body, and that can get exhausting. And so in our programming, we do a lot of that's one of the reasons we hike uphill under load, and also a lot of chassis integrity or midsection work to prepare for that. And I think and we also do heavy rucking, so we'll send athletes out with 60 to 80 pounds, just rucking, get their bodies ready for carrying for the pack out. And then finally, the one fitness demand is what I call mountain stamina. And so it's one thing to do, hour and a half of step ups. It's another thing to do a full 12-hour, 10-hour day, dawn to dusk, in the mountains, moving, trying to find game. That's a really long effort. Maybe stopping a couple of times for, food and water and lunch, and the rest of the time you're moving or focused, as you want to keep your focus and paying attention. And so that mountain stamina, we train that through the programming, especially the final program before the hunting season has 6 days a week, multiple 2-a-days, and long weekend mini events. And all that is designed to build your overall stamina and help build your, what I call your mountain toughness, to be able to go out there and spend those long days in the field, that happen when hunting, and not be just totally exhausted by it. Even when I go out, I'll lose, even if I'm camping, for my truck, I'll lose 10 or 15 pounds on a 10-day hunting trip, even if I'm trying to, stay fueled. It's just when you're moving that much, it's just hard to keep all that weight on, and you're just moving so much.
Any major differences between rifle and bow when it comes to backcountry hunting from a fitness prep perspective?
No, I don't think so. It should be all the same. You still have to get, I think bows and rifles pretty much, rifle might weigh a little bit more, so that'd be the only thing, but no difference. For committed rifle hunters who want to get, the bigger animals, they're definitely in the backcountry, and I'll see them up there for sure when I'm up there. Elk hunting, it's generally part of the elk season overlaps the rifle mule deer season in Wyoming, and so it's not uncommon to see rifle hunters, spike camp and everything else like I would do with my bow in the backcountry. So all the fitness demands are the same.
Excuse me. So really, it's strong legs, strong chassis, strong lungs. And I think people underestimate the lack of variety from a fitness perspective when it comes to prepping for a backcountry hunt. There's plenty of guys that live in this area, and guys will spend quite a bit of money to make a visit out to Montana or Wyoming or wherever the case may be to do a kind of a once in a lifetime hunt. And the guides to a man will say the biggest issue is fitness levels of folks coming from those places like Florida, like Texas. So I think these prep programs are super beneficial for those guys, especially coming from just drastically different terrain. Have you experienced any of that firsthand?
Yeah, I hunted with a couple friends who came out, and they were both, former tactical athletes, but both lived on the East Coast or Midwest. And I had been, training and then also doing a lot of backpacking, getting ready for the season. And yeah, I was probably what I chose to hunt was a little too ambitious for these guys, and it was just interesting for me to see even guys who had
So to cap this thing off, a piece of gear recommendation. Let's exclude the things that probably everybody knows they need to have, right? They know they need good boots. They know they need a good pack. They need a bow. They need good binos. So excluding those, piece of gear that's been a game changer for you during your backcountry hunting career. scan it. Sweet. Anything else you wanted to add on this? Coffee. Yeah. It's a morale raiser, a boost. All right, sweet. Thanks. I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks for listening in.